Morning, folks.
Morning, Bill.
Good morning.
Fine summer day. One more minute and I'll consult Lindsay for quorum requirements. We're at 10 a.m. How are we on a quorum, Lindsay?
2 away.
2 away. Okay. Usually takes a few minutes. So.
Okay, we are at quorum.
Oh, all right. That wasn't even a minute. Still 10 a.m. officially on my clock. So great. Thank you. Call the meeting of the Vermont Criminal Justice Council for July 2nd, 2025 to order. You've received a number of materials for this meeting in advance, including the agenda. Are there any agenda items that we need to add that are not on the agenda? I have no additions. I'll see if any others do. Okay, I think we're good with the agenda. A couple of just quick announcements. And I think Chris, the director, Mikkel will mention this in his comments. The Professional Regulation Subcommittee has an opening. There's been a candidate that's expressed an interest. If there are any others from law enforcement for the slot, please contact Chris by close of business today, because we want to get this appointment in place and get that committee back to full staff. And I just learned, I think, as many of you did as well, I'd like to extend our sympathies to the Shelburne Police Department on the passing of their chief, Michael Thomas, a few days ago. So our thoughts are there. Just as another heads up announcement, we'll probably we've been sliding pretty good with our hearings. We haven't had that second meeting of the month, but we got a few stipulated agreements forming up. So I think we probably want to plan on that third Tuesday of this month for having a case or two there. So just as a heads up, I know we haven't had that meeting for several months now, but we have a few to move through the process. And then finally, I know Lindsay sent this out. The Office of Racial Equity was doing a very quick survey of various councils and boards, and I think I'd asked them to extend it a little bit because I got notification of it a little bit late. So if you do have that link and you haven't done that survey, please do that for them. It only takes a few minutes, literally just a couple minutes. So pretty easy to do. Okay. Moving into the agenda, we have the minutes of June 5. They've been distributed. I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of June 5. Do I have a motion? How's your chance to get in the record?
So moved.
Okay, I heard it. I couldn't see it. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there we go. We got a motion. That's on the table. Are there any additions, amendments, adjustments to those minutes? I had none. Okay, and we'll call the vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of June 5, 2025, signify by, okay, Lindsay, I'm going this. Are we going to be able to vote?
Do we want to try it?
Let's go. Yeah,
All right.
we found out one of the problems, but I think this will work. Except for 3 people. Those 3 people, by the way, should vote on the chat. we end up with there? Are we good?
All right, 1 second.
There we go. Okay, yep. Okay. We got a couple coming in on the chat. The problem is the voting, I won't allow you if the email that you're using for the council is considered unverified in the system. So it's not that we don't love you. It's simply that the technology doesn't permit that. So I saw a couple come in. There were three. I think two of the three came in that are here. So
Yes.
having said that, all of those, well, we voted. The minutes are
Yep.
the minutes are
13,
approved.
yes.
Thank you. The technology, we're learning something every day with it. But I guarantee by the end of the year, we'll be experts. Maybe we'll have figured out the unverified email problem. Okay, the next item on the agenda is vice chair selections. As many of you know or don't know, I joined the council for its first meeting in August of last year. And was I've been playing a little learn and catch up over those first few months in particular. And one of the things that surfaced as we were reviewing the rules, et cetera, was that we were supposed to have vice chair election and hadn't had those. So with I think what prompted this was when Jen Frank left. I looked to see, okay, what do we need to do next? And under Rule 5 of the for the council, we have to have an election to do so. So that's on the agenda today. We'll be voting for 2 vice chairs. Their terms will be 1 year, and I'll monitor. We'll get this in the book, and we'll make sure that we do this properly going forward. So we will open up for 2 vice chairs. We have historically had a vice chair from the law enforcement community and a governor appointed vice chair. So having said that, I know that there are 2 individuals who have expressed interest in this. I will now open the floor for the nomination of, we'll begin with the law enforcement vice chair. Kim, you have the mic.
Good morning, Chair. It would be my pleasure to motion to have Justin Stedman serve as the Vice Chair for the Vermont Criminal Justice Council.
Good, thank you, Kim. Can we have a second for the motion from Kim?
Yeah, I'll second that.
I hear it. Okay. We have a second. Are there any other, well, we'll vote. Are there any other candidates? Okay, hearing none, we will vote on the motion to appoint Justin Stedman as vice chair of the council. Are you ready, Lindsay?
Ready.
Okay. All of those in favor, vote. I can't vote. This is a comprehensive system, so. One in, yeah, we got 2 in. Okay. How are we doing, Lindsay?
Getting there, although majority is non-voting members. Sorry, I need to double check the chat.
We got 3 in the chat that were voting members.
Okay, very good.
That were affirmative, yep.
Then we're good.
Okay,
13.
congratulations, Justin. You have been unanimously elected.
Thank
The
you.
second vice chair slots is for Karen. Well, I'll take a nomination from the for the governor appointed slot that we've had as vice chair. I see a hand up again. Kim.
Chair, it would be my equal pleasure to move to have Karen Transcard Scott reelected as Vice Chair to the Criminal Justice Council.
Thank you very much, Kim. Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Justin. Okay, are you ready, Lindsay?
No,
Well,
sorry.
we have to ask if there are any other nominations from the floor. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're ready when you for the vote to appoint elect Karen as the vice chair. All right, we're up and running.
Yes.
A couple. And the results, do you have? Okay, there we go. Yes, we got another member who's coming on the chat. That's affirmative. And the results, I got a thumbs up. So the results
Yes,
are
sorry.
that Karen has been elected as vice chair. Congratulations, Karen, and looking forward to working with you and Justin, and having another year for Karen. Okay, thank you very much. Next year, I've got a tickler in the calendar to remember that this has actually worked out kind of nicely in the sense that we've synced our elections with the fiscal year as well. So there'll be a reminder to do that next year at the same time. I'll turn over, there's a lot going on, and we'll turn over to Executive Director Brickell for some of his announcements and updates. Chris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move right into my director updates for the council. And I'm, as always, happy to see other law enforcement members, not just council members here on this meeting, because in large part, I depend on them to provide this information that they hear at the meeting out to our law enforcement partners as well. So let me start with our attendance at Pride on June 21st. As you know, we mentioned ahead of time that we were going to be represented at the Pride event. We did have a booth there in Rutland. It was manned by Lindsay, by Lisa, also Jen Furpo and Mara Iverson. Their welcoming nature actually received a lot of visitors to our table there. And as part of the table that they had there, there was a what I would describe as kind of a fabric sheet on both tables that they had, with the theme of what does community safety mean to you, and then members that came and interacted with members of the council either drew words or displays on that. And those were taken, and they are now hanging up in the entrance here so that folks that come and visit us here at the Academy can see the interaction that we have with folks. We were also lucky to connect with our fellow council member, Sean Pratt, who was there representing the NAACP at that. And we posted some photos of our attendance at that event. So I just wanted to update folks on that. Any comments from any council members on that?
Good
Okay.
morning, guys. I just wanted to say I had a nice time meeting everybody and being at the Academy for the first time, seeing a lot of people. It was good to see y'all. So I had a lot of fun. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Sean. Moving on next to our naturalization ceremony, which was on June 25th. So as members know, we hosted our first naturalization ceremony where we had 25 new U.S. citizens that were sworn in from a total of 18 different countries. We had PEG TV here, WCAX was here as well. We had a nice reception afterwards, and we received a lot of positive feedback about the event and the fact that it was held here at the Academy. I also want to just make an important note that everyone here was very helpful in that taking place. All of our staff assisted with welcoming folks that were coming here, passing out programs, getting people where they needed to be, whether they were there as a person being naturalized or a family member or visitor. And they made it a very welcoming atmosphere. So I want to thank the staff for that and making that such an accessible event. And we look forward after the hearing and meeting with the judge, we look forward to having some more ceremonies here. So any council members or staff that want to comment on that event?
Chris, not a question or anything of that, but I believe the link, there was a video, a full-length video of the event. Is that link on the VCJC site?
That's a good question, and I'll have to defer to Lindsay for that.
Okay.
We did discuss it. We've been busy the last couple of days, so I don't know if we made it on there.
Okay, I
I'm
know
not
I
sure if it's in
had
there
it
yet.
because you sent it to me, but if others, I thought it was really great. I watched it. I wish I'd come. It was quite an event, and I want to commend Director Brickell for some great remarks that he made there. It was a very nice event. I think I'll attend the next one if there's another one here. Just a lot of really folks from all over various parts of state government and agencies and organizations, in addition to the folks that were naturalized. So good job for everybody. Thanks.
Okay, and next, as kind of a unscripted and nothing like putting people on the spot, I just wanted to make folks aware that we do have a new recent staff change. We have our new TC on board who started with us Monday. As many of you probably know him, Chris Matai, who just started on Monday, coming to us from his recent retirement with no time in between. We were kind of up in the air after I was reading news articles about the fact that he might still be in the running for the position at his former agency, but nonetheless, he is with us now and looking forward to his new responsibilities and preparing for the 120th class arrival. I think I'm going to throw this over to Chris, though he wasn't aware of this. If he would just like to say hello, introduce himself to council members and those other law enforcement members who were on the meeting. Let me check my screens here, folks, because he was on the meeting to begin with.
He is on there.
Sir, he's on there, but he's also on a new computer. It may take him a moment. Just
Would have been nice of me to give him a heads up. There we go.
I think, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I probably
So
did
we
this
can hear
wrong.
you,
I don't know
yeah.
how to use computers. I'm not that bright. Yeah, hi, everybody. Thank you very much for the welcome from Director Brickell. I'm looking forward to getting in a whole new class full of new police officers and doing my best to train them up to do the best they can to keep the state of Vermont safe. So thanks very much for the welcome, and let me know if I can do anything for you.
On mute, Chris.
Yeah, I put my own self on mute. Sorry about that. Moving on to just an update on the NHTSA survey that we had here. They conducted their 4-day assessment of our training program here. They were here June 10th through the 13th, and members took part in the assessment were grant coordinators, contractors, our impaired driving coordinator, prosecutors, forensic lab folks, and law enforcement liaisons and instructors. They sent us a preliminary draft report last week that we were allowed to have some feedback on, which was completed last Friday, and we now await their final report. When we get that final report, we'll share that with the council as well. It was an overview really of our complete program, including DUI, ARIDE, DRE, and the fundings around these programs. And what I heard was a lot of positive feedback, understanding the struggles of what it takes to keep DRE trainers and instructors on staff. And this was a welcome assessment. So again, as soon as we have that final assessment, we will pass that out to council members. Moving on to the 120th basic class, which starts on August 4th. I was a little surprised that, and we thought part of this might be our new registration process through Arcadis, but we have a potential of 38 recruits that are going to be joining us, which is a good manageable number. There's still a final PT test on July 9th, which may change that number slightly, but I fully expect that we should have 38 recruits beginning on August 4th. Of this current registration list, I'm kind of impressed. We have 8 women that are going to be a total of this upcoming class. And of this upcoming class, we have 17 folks that will be attending from VSP. That's a large number. That's good. It's good for the agency. Their numbers have been somewhere around 5 to 8 the last few classes. So 17 is a big jump that they've worked really hard at getting their folks in. Orientation is on July 11th for this class. They'll be going over paperwork completion, policy, medical and dietary concerns, and any special accommodations that we'll need to be aware of. So that's just kind of an update on the 120th basic class. Anyone have any questions on that? Okay, hearing and seeing none. One other thing I just wanted to mention is that we have an upcoming death investigation school that's going to be happening September 8th through 11th. That class is going to be limited to 30 applicants. And part of the prerequisites for that is that they have to be a level 3 certified officer and have 3 years of experience prior to getting into that school. So that's just an update for folks that are looking to get somebody into that class. That's on our website. They can sign up there. And then moving on to NTN for entrance testing. That is, folks will recall, a contractor that we worked with about getting an entrance test for the academy, which has been several years in the making. We're finally done with that process, all the contracting, all the legalities that need to go through with that. So at the conclusion of this meeting today, law enforcement agency heads will be getting an email that will give them an instruction document on how to get folks signed up to take the entrance test. It can all be done virtually, which is great. It should be easy for any agency that has an applicant that they can take this test where they are at. They don't need to come to Vermont in order to do that. This will be required beginning January 1 of this coming year for every level 1, level 2, and level 3 applicant to get into a basic training. This document will also include some additional services that NTN provides if agencies are having any trouble getting folks to actually do backgrounds. That's a service that they provide. There are going to be some meeting dates that are pre-set up with NTN so that agencies can sign on to if they would like more information about what services they offer. And if you can't make any of those meeting dates that will be on that document, you'll be able to reach out to the contact person directly to set up a time that works for you in order to be able to do that. So just as a reminder, you'll get that out later this afternoon. The sooner that you get applicants that you have the test, I would suggest going through that process and to see what that's like. Those test results are good for a year. So any class moving on from the date that your applicant stays will be good for that upcoming year. And then lastly, just as a reminder, I want to make sure that I keep bringing this up because we brought it up several times about entrance testing being effective January 1, and also PT requirements being effective for January 1 for any level 1, 2, or 3, which is already and has been in council rule number 14 for some period of time. It's just never been applied. So come January 1, just as a reminder to agencies that those will be requirements that folks will have to be able to pass, as well as the entrance test. That being the end of my update on reports, is there any questions? And I'm going to often actually open that up to anybody that might be on this meeting if there's an agency head that has any questions around that as well. And I'm not, oh, sorry, Roger, I see your hand.
Yeah, sorry. Chris, how many shots at the entrance test do people get? There used to be like 3, I think.
Yeah, so the document that you will get will give you the explanation of the testing process. If you have a failure, how long it will be before a period of time that somebody else can take the test again. So all that will be laid out in the information that you'll be getting at the end of this meeting today.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. Okay, not hearing anything else from that. Chair, would you like me to go back to the agenda, or would you like to take it to go to the next
Well,
item?
I'll return it to you. You have to pardon me. I'm at the academy and they're drilling something right outside my room. I don't know if you can hear that, but just a couple of items that came up in your report that are just point out that are in the chat. Jen Furpo posted the link to the graduation ceremony. So if you'd like to, the naturalization ceremony, I'm sorry. So if you'd like to see that, it's there. I think you might enjoy it if you've never seen one before. And then secondly, Ken noted and I think like to also thank the impaired driving team, Jamie Lee Bedard, for their work on that. In the past, I had done for NHTSA traffic records assessments in other states, and I know how much work it is, and then supported one here in Vermont some years ago, and I know how much work it is to prepare for NHTSA review. So thank you again on behalf of the council for that work. Chris, I'm going to turn it over back to you on the Rule 11 topic.
Okay, thank you, Chair. And thanks for bringing up those comments. Between notes, screens open, and I don't continually check the chat as it's coming in. So thank you for doing that. Moving on to our next item, which is the tuition and establishing a fee schedule. So by Rule 11, we do have to establish a fee schedule. Lindsay provided a document that outlined what our tuitions and fees are, broken down by tuitions and fees, facility rentals per day, and meals. What we are actually going to approve is the rate for the basic training, which we do not charge for, by the way, because by statute we cannot charge. So we're looking to just make sure that for any basic rate that we are approving, that's based on the document that Lindsay provided for the tuitions and fees. Some of these will look familiar to folks back when there used to be outside tuition students that were coming here. This fee was similar to what that fee was then. There's a really complex process by which these fees are developed that I didn't want to get into the weeds on today. What you're getting is the actual breakdown of what that culmination of those fees are, so that the council knows what those fees are. So what this vote by Rule 11 is to establish the fee for the basic training, and we're covering by this the entrance fee, which is a $30 fee that's set in statute. So with that, what I would need is a motion to approve the establishment of those fees by the council. Prior to having somebody make that motion, I just want to point out that all of the other fees on there get approved by a council vote. So we will just do a separate vote after that. So what I'm looking for first is the establishment of the fee schedule for covering the basic training and the entrance exam.
Okay.
So is there anyone
So-
that's willing to make that motion?
There we go. Now, just to be clear on the document that was distributed, the tuition summary, that would be the which part of that document are we voting on?
So if you're looking at the tuitions and fees document
Yes.
that lists the cost, you're looking at the level 3 and the level 2, which are listed there. And again, these are fees that we don't charge agencies because we're required by statute to provide it. And then the going down where it says overnights underneath that, the entrance exam fee, which is $30 by statute.
Okay, so from that document, the motion would be to approve the level 2, level 3 overnight and entrance exam fees.
Correct.
Okay, I just provided the wording. We have somebody to, Lindsay to get that and somebody to make that motion. I see Mark Anderson's hand up, making the motion.
Not making a motion just yet. I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify something, and I'm happy to make the motion. I'm just confused. So I will query the director. The tuition and fees that we're required to provide by statute, are these different from last year?
I think that the level 2 might be a little bit different. I would have to defer on Lindsay. The entrance exam is not, that is still set in statute. Lindsay, can you provide that clarification for us?
Yes, by different, sorry, I just want to clarify your question a little bit further. What do you mean by different?
Is there
Like
an
the level
increase
1,
from
level
last
2?
year to this year?
Mhm.
And then my follow-up question to that is, and this is where I got confused. Chris, you said that these are not charged to the agency. If we're providing them, who are we providing them to?
The fees are what the actual costs reflect, and that's what we have to establish by a fee schedule. But by statute, we are not able to charge those fees to agencies for certification.
So does
That
this
answer
go
your
to our
question?
budget argument with the legislature?
It always does.
Okay. So do we have an increase to it? Lindsay, do we know? Is that an
So-
easy question?
Well, yes and no. So we actually haven't voted on the tuition and fees because rules were suspended on that piece. The last vote on tuition and fees, it did not occur last year. But the actual, yes, it increases by a little bit each year. And the original statutory amount, when it changed to remove the actual dollar amount from statute, it's only gone up about $300 since then. That was in 2014.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve everything you said.
I was gonna say level 2, level 3, overnight and entrance exam fees.
So
We have
moved.
the motion. Do we have a second? I see Karen Dronsgard Scott's hand is up. I'm assuming that's a second.
I'm happy to second that motion.
Okay, motion is second. And any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All of those, well, I guess I want to get in the habit of voting in a way that we record it. So Lindsay, are you ready? Or can you be ready?
Yes. Yes, rule 11. Okay. Launching now.
Okay, we'll vote on the motion. The question is launched. There we go. And again, those that are not able to go in the poll, please vote on the chat. Okay, Lindsay, are you able to determine?
Yes, 16.
I saw unanimous vote. Okay, the motion has passed. Chris, there's a part 2 that I believe you need to
Yes,
action on.
there is. And this is just by formal vote by the council, that we the rest of the tuitions and fees that are on there, so I'll outline them so that folks are clear on which ones we're talking about. We're talking about the range, outdoor and indoor fee, the canine schools, both of them, in-service training, which is again a fee that's determined by a complex process. Our overnight fee, which, if I believe I'm correct, went up $1 from last year. Facilities rentals per day for classroom 2, 3, and 1, the gym, cafeteria, and scenario building, and then our meals prices. These are just by formal vote of the council. However, I want to make very clear that even though the council is voting on the rest of those, the only fees that are actually charged to agencies as a result of this vote are canine schools, because they are not basic certification. They are in addition to basic certification, and overnights, including meals. So the fees that we charge to agencies are overnight fees, outside canine training, and then the breakfast, lunch, and dinner fees, which are set by our contract. So that vote, if you approve the rest of those fees, will be subject to those charges that I just outlined that we will only be sending to agencies.
A point of clarification, Chris, I think we included overnight in the last vote. That was one of the 4 items we voted on. Did we need to? Are we voting on that? Which group did it need to belong to? Probably.
I'm sorry, I didn't see overnights being the last one.
Yeah, we had 4. We had level 2, 3 overnight, and entrance exam that we approved. So for this motion, would it be everything else?
This motion would be everything else.
Okay.
Correct.
I didn't want folks to get confused. So
Is it problematic if it was tied into the last one?
It's not actually, Mark.
Right.
It's not, provided you're clear on the explanation that the only one that we actually charge to agencies is an overnight fee.
Yes.
And that's for like linens and all this stuff, Chris.
Yeah.
Yep. The overnight fee is linens.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the
All of it.
document as provided, excluding what we've already voted on.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second.
See, I'm on one screen. Okay, there we go. I think Karen got her hand up there. I saw that. Okay, Lindsay, are you prepared?
Yes.
Okay, there it is. We're ready to go. Vote away. Okay, we have several coming in on the chat in the affirmative. So our motion has
Yes.
been unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay. Any more issues on that item, Chris?
No, sir.
Okay, Rule 19, training hours. I'll turn it all back over to the executive director.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit expanded than just beyond Rule 19. We're actually going to be voting on 3 rules, 15, 17, and 19. Let me preface that by saying that Rule 15 are the basic training standards for level 1 officers, which, as everybody knows, is not created yet in the process. And Rule 17 is the basic training standards for level 2 law enforcement officers. That is the one that both of these, the level 1 and the level 2, were already approved by the council by a council vote back on December 4th of 2024. We're required to do this each year, which is why we're re-voting this now for the following year of 2025. And just for council refreshment, when we discussed and the council voted on the standards for level 1 law enforcement, it was for a phase 1 creation of an 80-hour training, with phase 2 followed up with 60 hours. And then phase 3, the FTO process of 60 hours as well. That was already voted on by council on December 4th. And the level 2, which increased from what it currently is now of a phase 1 of 80 hours, went to 120 hours. The phase 2 was also 120 hours, and the phase 3 was also 120 hours. Again, that was also voted on by the council and approved on December 4th, 24. So the first motion I would look for is to approve the basic training standards for level 1 and level 2, indicated in Rule 15 and 17, as previously voted and approved on December 4th of 2024.
So, it sounds like Chris articulated that motion. And let's see if we have who would like to make the motion a second, then we can open it to discussion.
I'll make that motion, Chair.
Okay, so move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Tom Shinet, second. Okay, thank you. Okay, now floor is open for discussion, questions to Chris. I do recall, it seems like it was yesterday, but it was 6 months ago, so almost 7 months ago now, actually, that we visited this prior. Any changes? Anything? There's nothing that new that happened that we should be aware of. But any questions for Executive Director Brickell? Okay. Oh, I see your hand.
Could you just repeat, sir, what the level 1 requirements were for hours?
Sure. The level 1 was, it's going to be created at phase 1 of 80 hours, a phase 2 of 60 hours, and a phase 3 of 60 hours. And again, this is the minimum number of hours of training that's going to be established by the council that we have to vote on an annual basis.
Thank you.
Okay, Kim McManus, your hand is up.
I just wanted to confirm that I know next on the agenda, we have the level 2 work group report, but that nothing in that report would contradict the suggested numbers for level 1 and level 2. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Any further questions? Okay, hearing none. Lindsay, are you ready?
Sorry, 1 second. I had it ready. Okay. All right, and just for clarification, are we re-voting on 15 and 17 or just voting on 19?
We're voting
on 15,
15 and 17.
Okay. Let me edit my poll. Okay.
Become. There it is. Okay, we've got some coming in. Okay, affirmative. And there we go. Okay. And the motion has passed. Thank you. Director Brickell, any further action on that?
We're going back to the actual vote for Rule 19, which is the basic training standards for level 3 officers. And again, this is the council is required to have a minimum number of allotted hours for each major topic of the basic training, and it should be specified by the executive director and approved by the council. What I want to be clear on is the document that you received that outlines the training hours. It shows at the bottom of that there's a total recommended hours, minimum number of hours, including training and non-training hours of 931. That's currently where we're at. What I'm going to be asking the council to vote on is for a motion to approve a minimum of 704 hours. And the rationale behind that is because as we set up our training curriculum, and it's listed in the CADIS, 704 hours is actual training hours, including academic testing and competencies that each recruit will take. And the additional 227 hours is comprised of PT, administrative testing, drill and ceremony, things of that nature. And sometimes those fluctuate depending upon individual PT requirements or folks that might be injured. So I don't want to take that 931 number total hours and have the council vote on that because that might fluctuate. In addition to that, in this upcoming level 3 class that we have, we are going to be doing a test phase of IADLEST new curriculum where it comes around fair and impartial policing. And that number is slightly different from what we're doing. So what I'm asking the council is to have a motion to approve a minimum of 704 hours, which is actually the academic portion that the recruits are trained and tested on, that we can verify happens with every recruit, and leave the remainder of those hours out of that component for the motion.
Okay, just so we understand, the core training, the academic and core training is 704 hours. PT, what we might call co-curricular activity, is the remaining element. So I believe, Chris, what you're asking us is to set that minimum floor that comprises the core academic training and demonstration. That includes the competencies, et cetera, but setting that at 704 hours, given the fluctuation in those other activities that may occur for any number of reasons. Is that a fair statement?
That's
Want to
exactly
summarize
fair.
it?
We just don't want to vote on a total number that might fluctuate and then not meet that.
Okay.
What the council voted on.
Okay. Okay. Do we have any questions for Chris before we want to make sure that folks understood the document and what he just summarized? Let's get a motion to, I think as Chris suggested, the motion be to approve a minimum of 704 hours for level 3 basic training.
Yeah.
We have that motion.
Point of information, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
On the training hours recommendation attachment, I understand the director's explanation. Rule 19 saying a recommended training and non-training hours of 931. And there's obviously they're not the same. I just want to make sure what we are voting on right now does not appear as a regression in law enforcement training, as opposed to handcuffing the director to exercise something, especially when we have a pandemic happen, and then we have to become rather creative in how we train dozens of law enforcement officers in ways that we can't anticipate. So I just want to make sure we at least have it on the record what we are attempting to accomplish in this vote for 700 plus hours versus the recommendation of 931. And then we memorialize we are not reducing training.
Chris, I can't tell if you.
That's an accurate statement. I don't know if anyone else has comments to Mark's clarification, but absolutely. We're not reducing any number of training hours. We're just voting on the academic portion and skills-based components that we're testing on. We do have other components that we test on in PT, but those numbers fluctuate. So we're just making sure that we are voting on the minimum threshold of what we're expecting.
Thank you.
Thought I saw a couple hands earlier, but I'll go back to the motion and then we'll open up the discussion. So we need the motion to approve 704 minimum hours for level 3 basic training. I see Chief Pontbriand has raised his hand to make the motion. We have the seconds.
I'll second.
I can't see my whole screen. Okay, Sheriff Anderson has seconded that motion. Okay. Further discussion of the motion. Are there any further questions, etc.?
Mr. Chair, just so I understand, Director, the 704 is the accumulation of the actual classroom hours, or classroom and the scenario. Sorry, I was just.
So it's a combination of classroom test outs, scenarios that are graded. Yes, where the scenarios, there are like midterms that aren't graded, but are more like refresher and practice for recruits. Those are part of that 227 hours. So we're doing only those that are being classroom, academic, competency based and tested out.
And I don't mean to jump ahead of Sheriff Anderson. So just when a Vermont law enforcement officer gets their transcript, because I'm on the waiver committee, so is the transcript going to show 931 hours or 704 hours?
Knowing that we're going through this new system of ACADIS now, I will defer to Lindsay if she has that answer for you right now. Okay. I don't know what that transcript will actually look like.
Yes, the transcript will show all training that occurs, which will be the 931.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Sheriff, for jumping ahead and not raising my hand.
Thank you, Lindy.
You're welcome.
Sheriff Anderson.
Not a problem, Colonel. It was an excellent question that helps with some of my confusion. Director, I know in the past, and for good reason, classes such as DUI enforcement, radar, LiDAR enforcement, things that were part of what I knew as post-basic curriculum were integrated into the level 3 basic training. Are those part of the 704 hours, the 931 hours, or something else?
They are part of the 704 hours.
Are we looking at ways that people who have already completed those certifications don't have to attend those? I'm looking at managing training resources.
That's been a topic of conversation here for us before. There have been some cases where that has been approved, but we're trying to keep folks together as best as we can, and making sure that if somebody has taken this might just be a refresher for them. So it's not like it's, unrealistic training that they could receive or understand better going a second time through.
Okay. Any follow up on that, or?
I'm still thinking. Thank you.
Yep. I think that's a question that I think particularly I'll jump ahead a little bit as we start talking about pathways and things of that nature. That's the kind of question that comes up, about having to repeat or not repeat certain things. Director Hawkins, floor is yours.
Good morning, all. I might be able to help a little bit with that. Part of the logic behind not sending people home that have already taken that class is that we have so many other programs that are running concurrent to that at the same time that the class is still involved with, whether it's practicing for graduation, doing practicals, doing makeups for things that they were not successful before. They reached the DUI classes at the end of the program. This offers us a remedial opportunity with those folks at the same time that if they had already completed that class, they may or may not be eligible to attend. I think that's probably in part an agency head decision at the same time if somebody's not successful and they need that remedial time. But at the same time, we really need the class together for that final week prior to graduation to get the graduation ready to go, to make sure the DNC is happening, to make sure all the agencies have the opportunity to get their folks all of the appropriate gear, uniform equipment, et cetera, to make sure that it's successful.
All right, thank you, Ken. Any further questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none. Lindsay, are you ready? I'll reiterate the question. That is to approve a minimum of 704 hours under Rule 19 for Level 3 basic training. And then thank you for those that may have to vote outside the system, but we're getting the hang of this. So, okay, I think I see that the motion has unanimously passed. Thank you. Okay, I think that concludes any of the action that you need from the council on training, Director Brickell.
It does. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. The next item on the agenda for Director Brickell and Sheriff Anderson is the Level 2 work group report, which was also distributed with the materials for this meeting. I'll turn it over to whoever is volunteered to brief on this.
Well, I'll start and I'll be very brief. I just want to thank the folks involved in this Level 2 review. As you all know, we've had a lot of prior reports and recommendations around Level 2, and this work group had their work cut out for them, and a lot of good conversations and a lot of trying to get information from folks that were going to help us move forward with Level 1 and the Level 2. The report that you have seen says draft on it. My recollection of that last meeting is everyone was good with all of the content and voted to approve that. It just had to be put into its final context, which hadn't been done prior to getting to the council. And just for further information, I'll let Sheriff Anderson get into the details of this report, but this does not require a council vote. This is a work document that was done on behalf of the council for us to use as a guiding principle. So with that, I will turn it over to Sheriff Anderson.
Thanks, Director. So I'll start off with my appreciation to the members, specifically from the Attorney General's office, the Chiefs Association, Vermont Police Association, VLCT, Judiciary. A lot of work went into this, and I apologize if I omitted anyone. But a lot of work did go into doing this. This has been work that's long time coming, and it is a piece of the puzzle that is put in front of you, but also not a final version of we did everything, we solved everything, we know everything. The two things I think that are most important to identify, our committee had to do this without resources. And I say without resources, we don't have consultants, we don't have experts, we don't have really even the support broadly of IADLEST, since that is primarily focused on the Level 3 program, but we're able to take information from what IADLEST is doing with the Level 3 program. But we also don't even have the staff to help us do this. So we don't have a curriculum coordinator, we don't have development resources, we don't have people who are experts in developing different delivery methods, that are professionals in that. And so what I mean is if we wanted to talk about distance learning or hybrid learning or in-person learning, Bloom's taxonomy of learning, like all these things, we have people that are not me or really the representation of our committee to do it. So our charge was to look at the liabilities tied to the level 2 program as they have been experienced by the academy, and then consider what changes we can make. The council previously heard a recommendation of ours. We had 2 charges. One is the short-term changes we could do. And so the council heard our recommendation that is incorporated into this report. And then come up with long-term recommendations. And so this does reflect all of that. We've pretty much concluded our work. The director already mentioned about the draft status primarily. So the content of the report has been voted on and approved by the committee. The primary changes that were required that were not available in time for publishing for this meeting were attachments A, B, and C. The council already reviewed those documents during our December 4th, 2024 meeting. So those are not new to you, but some edits were required to be made to those documents, which because lack of resources, everybody, all the hands in the cookie jar, if you will, they just were not prepared for publishing in time. We have since attached attachments A and B to the document, again, previously seen by the council. And attachment C is to be developed, so it is actually not there, but will need to be developed for those. So fundamentally forms which are within the purview of academy staff, but we thought it was important to include them in the report so that it made sense when people pick up the document and say, what does this actually mean? That they could see it, but not formally the work of our committee. I'm gonna skip a majority of the report to say briefly, one of the first things we identified is that we don't have level 1. And so we've already, as a council, voted on that. We recommended that that be created because what we're currently seeing as a liability issue is that level 2s, which were not primarily used for patrol in a lot of agencies, have started being used for patrol by a lot of agencies. Whether or not that was intended, whether or not that was by design, we recognize that there is not the ability to test competencies of skills learned at the Phase 1 Academy. And so part of the expansion of the level 2 Phase 1 Academy class was to include scenario-based training, also include training for emergency vehicle operations, and do not take my list as everything in total, but those are the 2 primary areas that we were really focusing is better driving skills and demonstration of techniques. We also acknowledged that it seemed kind of silly to have lethal use of force training, i.e. firearms qualification baked into the Phase 1, but then our non-lethal tactics training, including de-escalation and stuff of that nature, was put into Phase 2. Also acknowledging that that class generally, I believe, is a 3-day course, might be a 4-day course. That class would require candidates to come back to the academy for yet another week anyways. And so what we did was move some of the classes that could be reasonably attained during Phase 2. We moved those out of Phase 1 into Phase 2, and then we baked 3 days of defensive tactics into Phase 1. What is not included as part of the Phase 1 course is training around the use of pepper spray or an expandable baton. So agencies that wanted a person to be equipped with those tools would then send them back to a Phase 2 class, which would be offered at the academy or through a defensive tactics instructor. So it's not really preventing the ability of an agency to use it. It is just moving where, when, and how. And we felt that having the hands-on skills was more important than having 2 tools which could be obtained either later through the academy's program or through a vendor program, as many organizations have sought before. The level 1 program and level 2 program have several obligations that are required under statute. So fundamentally, they follow a very similar process of needs. And part of the reason a level 1 program was not created or curriculum was not created is because fundamentally, if they were accomplishing the same things, expenditure of training resources to go to level 1 pretty much is the same. So with this expansion of saying we're going to start adding patrol-related skills, scenario-based training, driving training into level 2 is to say, well, now we're starting to have a deviation of the necessary curriculums for phase 1. So level 1 and level 2 are proposed as a commingled academy. A person going through for level 1 or level 2 would attend the first 2 weeks of that program. Anyone looking to go towards a level 2 track would then complete a 3rd week at the academy as part of phase 1, where they would accomplish that driving training, scenario-based training, and whatever else is included in our attachment A. The level 1 program would leave after 2 weeks and they would go off to their phase 2, phase 3, much as we understand the structure from the level 2 program as it existed December 2024. Said a lot so far. I'll pause if there are any questions since I'm bouncing around a bit. Seeing none. So that will accomplish filling one gap. That also, one of our initiatives was to be supportive to agencies that are trying to get people to do jobs that they need today, while also trying to address liability issues as they were recognized by the Attorney General's office and others. So that is why we went that route, to have the level 1 and level 2 programs. We also recognize that there are some other areas that either currently require or will require additional attention in the future. One of those is around our field training program. That is currently a requirement of the level 2 program. It is not a requirement of the level 3 program, which, as we talk about the consistency, what we're trying to accomplish, most agencies already have field training programs, but we start to see all this deviation and lack of standardization as we start to talk about field training, who's qualified to be an FTO, what an FTO teaches versus what's personal opinion. So like, it's an area that's going to need to be explored. We didn't have the time, bandwidth, or even the ability to look into that. We just acknowledge it as an area that will require future work. We're also, there's acknowledgement around different levels of supervisory track training, which I would include field training certifications with. There is a recognition that we are depending on academy staff to do things that we don't have sufficient academy staff for. And this is part of an ongoing problem as we approach the legislature with funding requests. Our academy runs, don't hold me to the exact number, but I want to say it's roughly 1/3 of the training staff that the New Hampshire Police Academy has, where we have very similar fundamental delivery methods and curricula to deal with. So we are trying to do very much with very little. We made a recommendation that statute does require that the council define certain language, which to my knowledge has never been done. And so there are things that should be identified by the council and likely the rules committee to be built in as language that we should do. We acknowledge we need to evaluate the learning objectives and measurables of the level 2 program. Some of that is based on work that is coming from IADLEST as it pertains to level 3, but some of that we are going to have to do the work ourselves. And then we're also recommending, which has also been done, but we're recommending the creation of the Alternative Pathway to Certification Committee, which is also a statutory obligation of the council, I think from 2020 or 2021, but that's looking at dealing with the issues around what type of academy do we have? Do we have the current model that we know the level 3 program to be? Do we allow people to move from level 2 to level 3? The 2E proposal or pilot program that we previously adopted as a council. That's another tranche of this concept of what are we trying to do. And so really it is trying to identify how do we do this appropriately? How do we do it professionally? How do we deliver resources to accomplish the things that we have generally been told by the legislature and Vermonters and agencies that they want or need? But then it's bridging the gap. So that is primarily the recommendations of our committee. I will note attachment A, while I thought it was right when we included it, it was not right. So ignore attachments A, B, and C of the draft version. A circulation of the finalized version of draft of this document with attachments A and B included will be circulated. I think it was sent out to the committee yesterday. So just it is out there, it's on the street. But those are the 3 documents that are going to change from this draft. And again, they have been reviewed by this council. It's just we wanted it all baked in together.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff Anderson, for that comprehensive summary. There's a lot there, and I guess would it be fair to say we could distribute the final version before the next full council meeting in August?
I'd be happy for it to go out today. I also don't want to speak in place of the director, but I can send that out if there's not an issue. I'm not the expert on what the rules are for circulating documents.
I think it would make sense if we circulate the document from here once we get the final ones from the sheriff. We noticed some discrepancies in that as well, and just wanted to clarify that before they go out. So we will send the finalized documents out to the full council.
Good, thank you. Well, I think just as a reflection and comment on Sheriff Anderson's remarks and the report, it is an ongoing struggle with staffing and resources to make these moves and bringing curriculum delivery to contemporary methods and approaches and et cetera with the technologies and such. So I think there's a lot to work with here. There's a number of problems that are identified that are going to need some perhaps priority. And in the end, I don't know exactly how we solve the resource problems. I think many of you know my background, and there are some substantial resource needs to make these moves, to move in a direction. We can't continually depend upon, I'll say, the goodwill of individuals to do that, and the staff to carry the load of the expectation. So I know that remains an ongoing challenge. Sheriff Anderson.
There's one thing I forgot to mention. The recommendation of incorporating the EVOC program into level 2. We have no additional funding for it. I'm trusting the magic of the director's accounting skills to figure out how to pay for cars, gas, tires, insurance, repairs. We are looking to train more people to do things with the existing vehicles the academy has, the existing instructor base. It's all the things that we know are limited. And it's not to say that the training's not valuable or needed. I've previously said to this group, I am an example of a person who fell through the cracks. The EVOC program was cut from my level 3 program or my full-time certification program. I've not been able to attend an EVOC course sponsored by the academy. I don't do patrol normally, so I'm okay accepting that risk on behalf of my agency right now, but I would love to take the class. It just hasn't been offered. And so with that, I've talked to Ken Hawkins, the director, and we're working that out. It's not a gripe, it's a statement of lack of resources. And if we can't deliver that program, I will also be the first one willing to come back to this council and say, we tried, we drove forward, hoping, pun intended, we drove forward hoping to get this training because we believe the liability should be managed. But if the powers that be will not provide us the resources to do it, what do you want us to do? We either invest in this profession or we don't. If we don't, that comes with liability. Our committee had no ability to manage that liability. It's just the recommendation of it's the right thing to do, and we're going into it with duct tape and baling twine and a fragile budget. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay. Any further observations, questions, maybe for Sheriff Anderson or Director Bickell up that report? Okay, we'll look for the edited final version of that. And I think that will certainly remain a roadmap. It's, as I said, raised a number of really important issues that we need to figure out how to do and how to get from here to there. Right. Director Bickell, we have the last item on the agenda is the FIP review process, and I believe that's take that back, Lisa Ryan and Kim McManus and Dan Guerrera. I don't know who will be reporting on that, but I'll throw it out to
Good morning.
whoever takes the lead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll start it off and just say that by statute, we know that the council has to review the FIP policy by January 1, 2026. That doesn't mean that it needs to be changed, but we certainly do need to review it. So the FIP committee has a couple of different options for that review process that we'd like to talk about with the council today. So I'm going to let Kim McManus do that because she is the vice chair of the FIP subcommittee, and she's going to also provide a little bit of history on how that review process has happened in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to put in the chat just the statute so everyone can just see, as a reminder, the council's obligation. As Lisa said, before January 1 of each even-numbered year, the council needs to review and, if necessary, update the policy, the fair and impartial policing policy. As the majority of folks on the council right now remember, there was quite an extensive review done prior to the 2024 update. The FIP subcommittee spent over a year and a half reviewing and creating suggestions for the council to consider. The council then took, I think it was 4 or 5 months to consider those recommendations, have multiple meetings, and then update the policy in April of 2024. So a rather, I think we can all agree, extensive process was done fairly recently. The FIP subcommittee, recognizing the council's responsibility to conduct a review, started talking on the subcommittee level about how to go about this for 2026, realizing that we are in July with 5 months to go. We started to create a calendar of how we could get this done and meet that obligation, but we didn't want to go too far down that road without checking in with the council, just to remind everyone that this is on our list of things to do, and also just to make sure that you want the subcommittee to be at the start of the review process. We don't have to be. The subcommittee serves the council and the academy, and we need to do what you all want us to do. So essentially, we didn't want to get too far out on our skis on this. We do have a suggested process, but we're also open to other recommendations if the council would like to go about this a different way. So I'll outline how we propose to move forward and then open it up for discussion from the council. So given the time we have and given the likelihood that since we did just have such an extensive update to the policy, we don't anticipate a number of substantive updates being necessary this go around. we leave that possibility open, but we don't anticipate that. We would suggest that the council allow the subcommittee to begin the review using our July, August, and September meetings for the review time. We are required by statute to consult with the Attorney General's office and the Human Rights Commission. So we would use the subcommittee meeting time to provide that consultation. We would also reach out to any stakeholders that the council wished for our subcommittee to reach out to, and again, use that time up until September to gather any feedback. This would allow the subcommittee to then present our review and any suggested updates to the council at the October meeting, the October council meeting. And then that provides a buffer for the council that you could either take those suggestions at the October meeting, or if you needed more time or there needed to be back and forth between the committee and council, we would have November and December as backup time meetings so that we can move this forward again before January 1. That was the suggestion we had coming from the subcommittee that we wanted to present to you all. If you're okay with us proceeding that way, we're happy to do that. But if you would like to approach the review in a different manner, we would just appreciate that direction so that we essentially know how to use our time well for you.
Thank you, Kim. I'll share my thoughts, but first I want to see if anybody else has any thoughts or recommendations for the subcommittee and is the process that Kim outlined. Sheriff Anderson.
I love it. I'm a big fan of process equity, and that sounds to represent process equity. So thank you, Kim, and or everyone else involved in coming up with how to do that. I just wanted to call out from our last go around, because it was a point of contention. The committee did its work and labored a lot on its work, and then it was eventually presented for a vote. The recommended policy was presented for a vote to the council, which then the chiefs, the sheriffs, and I believe representatives from the state said, whoa, we have issues. And the problem that we were presented with were purely operational and legal, which then we asked for more time, which caused frustration from stakeholders. Right, wrong, or indifferent, just I'm trying to be as objective in saying all of this is, I'd hate for it to get to a point where we are saying we have these issues and the response for us having issues in implementing a policy within our organizations and communities is, well, you could have gone to the meeting. So I would just prefer that if the council be aware that we are the body that's approving this document for a reason, and while the subcommittee is going to do the work, we should not be at the end of the road deciding whether or not we have a problem. There should be check-ins, and it sounds like what Kim presented does that. So I just want to call that out as a less than ideal circumstance that we learn from, because I think it's also fair to the stakeholders to say they should have the ability to influence it. But by the logic, I'd have to attend every subcommittee meeting to influence a change would also mean I have to attend every council committee to do that, which that means I'm not doing the other things I need to do as sheriff. So I would appreciate just the updates being here with the council as we hit major milestones.
Great. Thank you. Other comments? I'll add mine. I support what Sheriff Anderson just said. Having a process with a timeline to get there before January 1 is great. And I think the idea of putting this on the agenda for updates at our meetings going forward until the changes are approved. Let's do that. Okay, so even if it's simply to come back to the council next month and say, this is what we're hearing, or this is where we are. All right. But I think Sheriff Anderson raises a good point of just being sure that there's a variety of, and Kim, you mentioned this about, seeking constituents and getting feedback on it. So on any proposed changes. So I think it'd be good practice for us to have this on the agenda going forward for each of the council meetings for any updates, or potentially to get some feedback from the council if an issue is emerging, to have that conversation as early as possible, not late in the game as we're moving along. Now, having said that, I also would probably concur at this point that there was major work done in the 24 policy that was developed. It would seem that there's some probably some adjustments, and I guess the question would be, and it would depend upon the feedback that comes from some of the constituents. Are we looking at a major overhaul, a minor tinkering, if you will? What would this entail? So just those are some questions I think we'll want to hear as a council as soon as possible. And I wouldn't look at the reporting out at the council meetings as being suspicious or anything of that nature, punitive in any way. It's simply to have that dialogue as early as possible, heading toward that January 1 deadline. I have a couple hands up, and Karen's Tronsgard Scott has a number 1 next to her hand, so you have the mic.
How appropriate. It seems so natural because I am number 1. I want to lend my support to Sheriff Anderson's comments. I think that the process, anytime you have a number of constituents and you have a participatory process, it's going to be a mess. And we learned that it was really hard work over the course of 2 years. It took a really long time, and we learned a lot. I do agree that it would be important for us to make sure that the law enforcement partners in this body are well informed and have the opportunity to provide feedback. It is, after all, those members of law enforcement that will be charged with implementing this policy. So it would be really important for them to have eyes on just as we go through this process. I also just want to express my deep appreciation for Kim and Lisa, who are deeply involved in the minutia of this policy, and also for Daniel, who's our leader on the FIP subcommittee. One of the questions that's been kind of sitting in my brain is, I'm just wondering, and this is probably a subcommittee question, do we anticipate that the Department of Justice will place new restrictions on our ability to implement FIP policy? When we were developing this policy, of course, we wanted it to comport with federal law, and we relied on the Attorney General to make sure that it did that. That cut off some of the more ambitious provisions of this policy. And so just in understanding that we have a new Department of Justice and new leadership in the White House, different from that which was present when we were actually finalizing the policy we currently have. I wonder if we're anticipating that there'll be any changes that might come to us that would further restrict this policy and its impact. But again, big thanks to everybody who's involved in this, and support for Sheriff Anderson's assertions. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I think the evolving federal scene is going to be on everybody's mind. And I know particularly I'm sure the committee's watching that very, very, very closely. We don't really know. Chris Brickell, you're up. You're number 1 now.
I'm never number 1. I'll defer to Karen being number 1. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Well, you got it.
Couple things that I also want to mention is my deep appreciation to this subcommittee that does a lot of work, and to Kim's task-oriented mindset of keeping people on task so that deadlines are met. That's a big help when you're talking about a topic around fair and impartial policing. I also want to remind folks of 2 things, folks on the council, that is that back, I think it was May 1st, where I and others testified before House and Senate Committee on Judiciary on fair and impartial policing oversight. There was a lot of stakeholders that were a part of that hearing. And that I think derived a lot from what's going on with the federal government and the changes that we saw happening within Vermont that felt that the fair and impartial policing policy did not go far enough and was not protective enough. I think that that committee heard enough testimony that the council's fair and impartial policing policy was sufficient and was doing the job that they hoped it was doing, and didn't feel the need to go beyond that hearing. That being said, things change all the time, and I just want to make sure that the council is aware that this subcommittee does take all those partners' intakes very seriously. They allow for engaged conversation, but it's also important to recognize that who are the recipients of what any new or additional policy or modified policy changes will be. It's law enforcement. And law enforcement is the one that has to be able to put into practice. And I think this last adoption of the policy was good in that it gave clear, defined definitions for law enforcement, and it was clearer and easier to follow. So I just want to make sure that all of those things are law enforcement, who are the partners that we all expect to uphold the fair and impartial policing policy, are the ones that we don't lose sight of when we're hearing testimony from others about how things are not working well. So again, thanks to everybody that works on that. It's beyond my capacity some days to even go down those roads and think about some of those things. So I'm very happy that that subcommittee is so dedicated to the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that, Chris, and thanks to the committee. This is a heavy lift, and I think to be commended as a committee for seeing that schedule and getting out in front of it. So that, you know, time buys you options, right? And so if we have some time to be able to consult with folks and anticipate issues and maybe have a little more time to anticipate what might be happening with the federal scene and how that impacts Vermont law enforcement. But I think the important point here, and again, Sheriff Anderson made this earlier, was about logistical implementation, legal. There's a number of points there that we need to be sure we're out in front of. Kim, you're number one again. Always number one.
Thank you. I'll take that. Just a note, just dovetailing on some of the comments made. This suggested timeline is based on the fact that, as Director Burkell mentioned, the Vermont legislature did hold a joint judiciary committee who reviewed the fair and impartial policing policy and the statute and did not recommend any changes. So we have no changes to our governing statute. And so far, to Karen's point, we have not received any word of any federal statutes changing. So I think this timeline is realistic given that landscape. If there are any changes on the federal side, we will update the council as we might need to revise the schedule. Because again, this timeline is anticipating that we will not have many, if at all, substantive changes. If we are getting into substantive material, that would take we will mention that sooner than later because we may need to adjust the timeline accordingly. And in that vein, just to think ahead for the council, big picture to 2028, if there was a need or a want to do a big revision, a large revision of the policy, one would need to back this calendar up. I would say probably a full year and use all of 2027. So something just to forecast down, that's something the subcommittees talked about, is to have a calendar, a rolling calendar to keep an eye on this and sort of being able to anticipate when there's larger need for policy change that we would need a longer timeline. So again, we think this is realistic given where we are right now, but future revisions would require a different timeline.
Yeah, great. I'm glad, delighted to see the committee's thinking that way. You're right. It would almost be with a 2-year review cycle, depending upon the complexity of the and changes in the environment, can end up being a perpetual review. In just constant monitoring, as maybe new conditions occur with the question of how does this impact the policy, right? And what might we need to do. I would hope that it's not the case, but it could potentially be the case of some changes in the environment being so significant that we might have to revisit that before the required timeline to be able to adjust and have the policy fit. But comforted by the fact that committee's looking at this vigilantly and diligently, and will keep us informed. So I guess the task order would be drive on. Okay.
Thank
Any,
you. We
any
appreciate
fin-
it.
Yeah, any final comments, questions? Great. That brings us to the end of our general, our agenda with just the general discussion. And I just wanted to mention that we have been working, and I've been working with the Chris Brickell as the executive director, and we have a pathways committee that we've got together. Thank you to some folks that had volunteered to be on that. We're looking to organize and get meeting as soon as possible. A number of things in play, but there's a lot to be discussed. Again, a continuation of following up on the consulting report that we got end of April, first part of May, and plenty there. A number of those issues came up in discussion today. Chris, your hand is up.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Yes, you're correct. The first meeting of the alternate pathways work group is set for July 10th. All members should have received an email, and actually those that expressed an interest but were not members of that, simply by their associations choosing other folks, should be aware of that meeting as well. Two things I just want to bring up for future discussion of the council. So I just want to bring them out so people start thinking about them, is some statutory changes that we need to address. One being the entrance fee or the entrance test fee of $30 that's mandated in statute. The academy is covering the cost of our new entrance test that folks are now taking. The difference between it's a $30 fee by statute, but the actual cost is like $65. And I would anticipate at some point that those costs might go up in the future. So to make this available as quickly as possible, we are going to cover the differences between the entrance testing fee and the agency cost that would have cost agency to join NTN in order to take the entrance testing. So that's one area of the statute. And then another under 20 VSA 2355 F1, which is around tuition fees, which outlines that the tuition fees shall be set forth in rules adopted by the council, which essentially means that every year we have to go through the rule adoption process, which is a $2,000 fee to us just to go through that process, not to mention the time associated with it. When the real process that would make sense for us would be any rule changes that we need to adopt, anything that we see that needs to be adopted by rule, we put them together as a package and then we go through that process. But based on the way the statute reads, this is something that we're required to do every year, that we set a tuition fee. So those are just two areas of statutory language that I think we need to look a little bit further into. And then the last final option for me, or the last item to talk about, is level 2 training. Level 2, the state of Vermont would not function without level 2 training. A lot of agencies rely on level 2 officers, and being a former agency head myself, I know that in my hiring practices, I would hire somebody first as a level 2 officer, one, to give them some experience for them to see if the if the profession was really what they thought it was, but for us to see how that person would acclimate to all the different things that law enforcement does. Having said that, what we find very often is that agencies are hiring folks and sending them to the level 2 training process and then turning around and sending them to the level 3 process. That's problematic for us for a couple of reasons. One, these are tuitions and costs that we don't get to charge anybody. So it costs us twice to go through a certification process. And oftentimes, in this last class that just graduated here a couple of weeks ago, I pulled that class, and I want to say probably 3/4 of that class is returning to our 120th basic class for level 3. So they're not even going to complete the 3-phase process to get through the level 2 certification process. They're going to get a taste of it. They're probably going to go back to their agency and learn a little bit about what their agency does and maybe have some FTO time, and they're coming right back to us. So we're wasting resources here by doing this. So I think it's a further discussion we need to have among the council. And I bring it up now so that council members hear it, but agency heads hear it as well. If you're going to start sending people through a level 2 process or a level 1 process for that matter, how that moves into alternate pathways is that we should have a time period of at least a year that somebody receives that certification and is then out there gaining that expertise and that experience in that certification process before they come back here for a level 3 class. It's filling our resources, it's costing us money. And while I know agencies they're in dire need of folks, if you're sending somebody through a level 3 training regimen, send them to that. If you're sending them for the level 2, send them for that. Don't send them to a level 2 anticipating a level 3 and not use that process to actually fully get that certification, because it's killing our resources. And our resources, by the way, as a reminder, are agency dependent. We're depending on those agencies to send us those instructors, those use of force experts. So that means more work for your folks that you don't have the ability to send to us based on your resources. So just a bigger discussion. I want to bring it up now because we allow that process to happen now, but it's going to be a process that I think likely is going to have to change in the very near future.
Thank you, Chris. I think you pointed out an issue that I've observed and I think is a priority is that level 2 to 3 pathway. How do we make that, and as you just pointed out, more cost effective, but also more effective both for the agency and the recruits. So that's at the top of my list. And I think you mentioned the pathways. I think this has to be part of the discussion of the pathways group as well. How's that going to take place? So a critical issue. Any other final comments, announcements, anything for the good of the order? Okay. Well, hearing none, everybody have a safe and happy 4th of July. We're only a few days away. I'm sure a good vacation week or long weekend for folks. So we'll see you and keep your eyes open on the announcements. I know we have it in the schedule, but I'm anticipating that we will need some time in our hearing schedule for that third meeting on the third Tuesday of this month. I don't have the date in front of me, but it should be in your calendar. I think we sent out all those invites in advance. So
15.
Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved. Second. Okay, I'm going to call this one by acclaim. Let's all go have a hot dog, apple pie, and drive a Chevy. Okay. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
Happy 4th, everyone.
Thank you. Happy
Yeah.
4th.
Happy 4th.
Bye-bye.
Happy 4th.